I'm Steven Stark, and this is Biography of a Song. Let's talk about one of the most famous songs of the 20th century, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. This is actually a repost of a video I did a year ago on the origin of this song, particularly focusing on the lyrics. It's a great story. If you've already seen it, sorry about that. If you haven't, I hope you enjoy it. You want to hear what may be my favorite lyric story of all time? In 1938, composer Harold Arlen and lyricist Edgar Yip Harburg were hired by MGM to create songs for a little movie they were working on called The Wizard of Oz. They got really hands-on with this movie. Yip Harburg even had a lot to offer to the plot. He came up with the idea to have like a montage of song when Dorothy first arrives in Oz. He is actually the guy who cast Bert Lars, the Cowardly Lion. And the guys also wrote all the other classic songs like If I Only Had a Brain, Ding Dong the Witch is Dead, so much more. They were pretty much rolling and had everything done in like 3 weeks, except they needed that one big song. You know, the song that's going to make the audience fall in love with the main character, Dorothy. They were racking their brains. After such quickness with all the other songs, this was slowness. They couldn't get anything to come out. Finally, one day, Harold and his wife are driving to get some Chinese food, and he says, we got to pull over. We got to pull over. He goes and he sketches the idea of this tune he has in his head. They immediately go home and he works the whole thing out. He calls over Yip, who rushes right over, and he plays him this tune, and Yip doesn't like it that much. You see, Harold was playing it this big grandiose style, and Yip just didn't think it was right. But when Harold played it in a really more pensive, beautiful style, Yip thought, yeah, that's our song. And now the pressure's on Yip. He's thinking, what is this song going to be about? Okay, we're going from black and white to color. What's the only colorful thing she would have seen in her life on the plains of Kansas? A rainbow? So he hashes out the idea of Over the Rainbow, and it's really coming along great. But there's one problem. He has no words for the first 2 notes of the melody. Ba-dum, that octave leap at the beginning. All he has is ba-dum, over the rainbow. Now this is funny to us because we know the song. We can't even imagine it not existing. But it didn't exist. And Yip was racking his brain again. He came up with the idea for the song, but now the syllables just aren't fitting, and he thinks, you know what? Maybe we're just not going to have words for those first 2 notes. Maybe it'll just be melodic right then, and then she'll come in, over the rainbow. So Yip takes it home, and he talks to his future wife, Ethel Gorney, tells her the problem, just kind of casually, and she goes, hey, what about Somewhere? And he's like, oh yeah, somewhere. And he is exultant because that's exactly what the song needed. And much to his credit, for years apparently, he tried to convince her to allow him to give her lyric credit on the sheet music, which I think is super cool. But she refused, saying, don't be silly, it's your song. But this isn't quite the end of the story. You see, when Harold and Anya Arlen and Yip Harburg went to the sneak preview of the movie, they were very excited to see all their songs, and especially Over the Rainbow. But when it came time for the scene, it wasn't there. It had been cut by studio executives who decided the movie was too long. They absolutely pitched a fit, but they had very little leverage. But luckily, Arthur Freed, another MGM staff songwriter who had some leverage for various reasons, just absolutely threw down and said, this song has to go back in the movie. If it's not back in, I quit. And somehow he had enough pull to get them to decide, okay, fine, if it's that important to you, we'll put it back in. Then at the proper premiere, the scene played, and after a moment of stunned silence, the audience burst into applause. So what is arguably the most famous American song of the 20th century barely came into being, and then barely survived the editing process to stay in the movie. It's just incredible, and I absolutely love the story that they couldn't find that one word for the first 2 notes of the song. And sometimes now when I'm stuck on a lyric, I'll think, if Harold Arlen and Yip Harburg and Ethel Gorney could do it,